Hey everyone, ready to dive deep into the world of Curse of the Seven Seas? Released on March 25, 2024, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're uncovering every thrilling detail. If you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us grow. And for more incredible movie explorations and hidden gems, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's unravel the magic behind this cinematic masterpiece. Curse of the Seven Seas, 2024, is a film that lingers in the mind long after the credits roll. Released on March 25, 2024, this haunting Indonesian horror film quickly became more than just another chilling tale. It became a cinematic journey that blends folklore, dark magic, and raw emotion. It's a story that grips you from the very first frame and refuses to let go, pulling you deep into the shadows of a family's tragic past. From its spine-tingling supernatural elements to its deeply emotional core, Curse of the Seven Seas is the kind of film that forces you to confront the hidden darkness within all of us. What sets Curse of the Seven Seas apart from other films in the genre is its seamless combination of supernatural horror and the exploration of human nature. This is not just a movie about ghosts and spirits. It's a meditation on the consequences of greed, jealousy, and ambition. At its heart, it's a reflection on the decisions we make and how they ripple out to affect not just ourselves, but the people closest to us. This movie doesn't rely on jump scares to keep you on edge. Instead, it lures you in with an oppressive atmosphere, emotional depth, and a sense of creeping dread that builds slowly, relentlessly, until it's almost unbearable. The plot, centered around a seemingly ordinary merchant family, unfolds with an eerie, deliberate pace that allows viewers to fully immerse themselves in the world. The story begins with Sucipto, a successful merchant living in Indonesia in the early 1980s. First, everything seems perfect. His business is thriving, and he appears to have it all: wealth, respect, and a beautiful family. But that illusion is shattered when a mysterious package arrives at his doorstep. What starts as a seemingly innocent gift soon becomes the catalyst for a nightmare that no one could have predicted. Sucipto's children, Arti and Saifa, become the focal points of the family's growing misfortune. Arti, a young boy who has been able to see spirits since a traumatic incident in his childhood, finds himself at the center of the horror that is slowly consuming their family. Saifa, his protective older sister, joins him in the quest to uncover the source of the evil that is haunting them. As the two siblings begin to unravel the mystery, they discover that their father's prosperity came at a terrible price, a price paid in blood and dark magic. The Seven Seas black magic, a forbidden form of sorcery that was once practiced in ancient Indonesia, is at the heart of this curse. It's a malevolent force that lures individuals into making dangerous bargains with spirits in exchange for wealth and power. The film expertly blends this supernatural threat with themes of moral decay, illustrating how an innocent desire for success can quickly spiral into something far darker. What begins as a family struggle against the unknown transforms into a battle to break free from a curse that has bound them for generations. As the siblings dig deeper into their father's past, they uncover a disturbing truth. Sucipto's success was not earned through hard work alone, but through his willingness to sacrifice his integrity, and ultimately, his soul, in exchange for power. It's a heartbreaking revelation, and it drives the emotional core of the film. Arti and Saifa must not only confront the supernatural forces haunting them, but also come to terms with the sins of their father. The tension between family loyalty and the need for justice creates a compelling dynamic that keeps viewers invested in their journey. But Curse of the Seven Seas is not just about its plot. It's about the atmosphere, the visuals, and the performances that bring the story to life. The film is a masterclass in building tension. From the moment the curse begins to take hold, the camera work becomes more claustrophobic, with shadows swallowing the characters whole, creating an oppressive sense of dread that never lets up. Every scene is meticulously crafted to heighten the unease, and the visuals are often drenched in darkness, making the rare moments of light feel all the more unsettling. The supernatural elements are also where the film shines. The Swangi, a malevolent spirit from Eastern Indonesian folklore, serves as a terrifying embodiment of the curse. The filmmakers don't rely on cheap effects to scare the audience. Instead, they create a palpable sense of danger through subtle, eerie moments that feel as though the very air is alive with menace. When the spirits finally make their presence known, it's never just about fear. It's about the chilling realization that the curse is not something that can be easily defeated. It's an inexorable force that will continue to haunt the family until the very end. The performances in Curse of the Seven Seas are nothing short of remarkable. Ari, played by a young actor whose nuanced portrayal of a boy caught between his own fears and the responsibility of saving his family, is both heartbreaking and haunting. His ability to convey a range of emotions, from terror to guilt to bravery, is what makes his character so compelling. Saifa, his sister, is the emotional anchor of the film. Her determination to protect her family, even in the face of unspeakable evil, creates a character who feels both relatable and extraordinary. The dynamic between the two siblings is the emotional core of the story, and their journey to uncover the truth behind the curse is as much about their personal growth as it is about the supernatural forces they are battling. What makes Curse of the Seven Seas truly extraordinary is how it combines all of these elements: supernatural horror, folklore, emotional depth, and breathtaking visuals, into a cohesive whole. The film never loses sight of its core message, which is that the real horror lies not in the supernatural, but in the choices we make and the consequences that follow. It's a film that forces viewers to reflect on their own lives, to ask themselves what they would be willing to sacrifice for success, and what lines they would be willing to cross in the name of ambition. The movie has quickly become a cultural phenomenon, sparking conversations about its themes, its unique take on horror, and its portrayal of Indonesian folklore. It's a film that has resonated deeply with audiences not just because of its supernatural elements, but because it speaks to universal truths about human nature. It's a reminder that while we may not all be faced with dark magic or vengeful spirits, we are all confronted with the consequences of our actions. And sometimes, those consequences are far more terrifying than anything we could imagine. In the wake of its release, Curse of the Seven Seas has sparked a renewed interest in Indonesian horror cinema, drawing attention to the rich folklore and traditions that have often been overlooked in mainstream horror films. It has also gained praise for its bold storytelling, which refuses to adhere to the typical formulas of the genre. This is not a film that follows predictable patterns or relies on tropes. Instead, it creates an experience that feels fresh, unpredictable, and utterly captivating. For anyone who enjoys horror films that are more than just scares, Curse of the Seven Seas is a must-watch. It's a movie that doesn't just make you jump, it makes you think. It's a film that invites you into a world of supernatural terror, but also asks you to reflect on the darker aspects of human nature. And as you unravel the mystery of the curse, you'll find yourself questioning the choices that led to it, and the price that must be paid for redemption. In the end, Curse of the Seven Seas is a haunting exploration of family, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of power. It's a film that lingers long after you've seen it, a reminder that the past will always come back to haunt us. And sometimes, the only way to move forward is to confront the darkness head-on. If you haven't seen it yet, now is the perfect time to experience it. And if you have, you'll no doubt find that each viewing reveals new layers to the story, new details that add to the richness of this extraordinary film. The first half of Curse of the Seven Seas, 2024, is a slow burn that hooks the audience with a blend of suspense, supernatural mystery, and emotional depth. From the opening scenes, the film immerses us in a world of lush, expansive landscapes and shadow-filled streets of 1980s Indonesia, a time when the country's rapid economic growth coexists with ancient traditions and unspoken fears. The film begins as a family drama, but as the plot unfolds, it quickly veers into unsettling territory, drawing us into a world where the consequences of ambition and greed are much darker than anyone could have imagined. The story introduces us to Sisipto, a seemingly successful merchant who, on the surface, has everything going for him. He is wealthy, respected, and admired by his peers. His business is thriving, and his family is the picture of happiness. He lives with his wife, Kartika, and their two children, Ardi, a bright young boy, and Saifa, his protective older sister. Everything about their life appears idyllic, but from the first moments, we sense that something is off. There is an underlying tension, a feeling that Sisipto's success, though outwardly earned, may come at a deeper cost. The movie wastes no time in introducing the first signs of something unsettling. The family's home, a beautiful traditional house nestled in a bustling city, is the epitome of comfort. Yet there's an overwhelming sense of coldness that permeates the space. It's as if the very walls of the house are steeped in a history that the family is not fully aware of. Artie, who is introduced as a sensitive boy, begins having strange dreams and visions. Though only a child, he possesses a supernatural ability, the gift to see spirits, a talent he was cursed with after a childhood trauma. He struggles with his gift, but his connection to the supernatural realm will soon become crucial to the family's survival. The inciting incident occurs when Sisipto receives a mysterious package at his doorstep, sent from an unknown sender. It's an elegantly wrapped box with no return address, containing a strange artifact, a small idol carved from bone, one that radiates an eerie energy. At first, the family is confused by the gift. Sisipto dismisses it as an odd but harmless gesture, and the family doesn't think much of it. But soon, the strange presence within the idol begins to make its mark. That night, the house is filled with an oppressive stillness, a tension that seems to grip everyone within its walls. The atmosphere is heavy, suffocating, and it becomes clear that this is no ordinary gift. Artie's visions intensify. He starts seeing spirits lurking in the shadows, their presence growing more frequent and disturbing. The spirits are not malevolent at first, but they feel foreboding, as though they are warning him of an impending disaster. Artie's parents dismiss his fears, attributing them to his vivid imagination. But Saifa, his older sister, believes him, sensing that something is wrong. This sets the stage for their growing bond as they begin to investigate the mysterious happenings surrounding their family. Saifa, though initially skeptical, quickly becomes aware of the growing darkness around them, especially as her brother's visions grow clearer and more frequent. The tension builds slowly, with the first half of the film focusing heavily on character development and the psychological toll the mounting horror takes on the family. Sisipto's denial is a crucial element in the story. He refuses to acknowledge the possibility that his wealth, his success, and the peace of his family could be tainted by something sinister. His pride and his desire to protect his family from the truth blind him to the danger that's closing in. In the meantime, Kartika, his wife, remains a somewhat passive figure in the family drama, her role taking a back seat as Sisipto's business dealings and the children's experiences with the paranormal dominate the story. Artie's gift, which initially seems like a curse, begins to reveal its importance as the spirits grow more violent. At one point, during a family dinner, an unseen force slams a plate off the table, and the room goes cold. Artie is the only one who can feel the weight of the supernatural presence that now haunts their home. The spirits are not here for him. They are here for something much darker, something tied to his father's past. But Artie doesn't understand this yet. He only knows that the visions he's experiencing are connected to a force much older and more malevolent than he could have imagined. As Artie and Saifa dig deeper, they begin to unravel fragments of the past that hint at something far more terrifying. They discover that their father's success is not solely the result of his hard work. There is a darker secret buried deep in the family's history. Through old letters, hidden journals, and a series of cryptic encounters with the spirits, Artie and Saifa learn that Sisipto made a dangerous pact with a powerful spirit many years ago. The deal was simple: wealth and prosperity in exchange for an unspoken price. But the true cost of that pact is slowly becoming clear. The spirits that haunt their home are not just restless souls. They are manifestations of a curse that has haunted their family for generations. The first half of the movie carefully sets the stage for the curse's full revelation. Artie's growing abilities, his connection to the supernatural, and Saifa's determination to protect her family are all driving forces in the plot. But it's the moments of tension, when Artie catches a glimpse of something sinister lurking just beyond the veil of the living world, that really heighten the suspense. The filmmakers use these moments sparingly, allowing the dread to grow organically. There are no cheap jump scares here. Instead, the terror is built through the slow, methodical uncovering of secrets and the growing sense that the family is being suffocated by something they cannot see, but can certainly feel. The visuals in the first half are crucial to creating the oppressive atmosphere that defines the movie. The camera work often lingers on the shadows, drawing the audience's attention to the dark corners of the frame, where unseen forces are waiting. The lighting is key as well, soft, muted tones that heighten the sense of isolation and fear. The spirits, when they appear, are ghostly figures that feel unnatural and unsettling, their movements jerky and inhuman. The designs are minimalist but effective, using little more than simple costumes and makeup to create figures that are both otherworldly and eerily familiar. A pivotal moment comes when Artie has a terrifying vision of his father's involvement in the dark magic that has cursed their family. He sees his father years earlier, in a remote village, standing before a shaman. The shaman performs a ritual, one that involves binding the spirit of the Swangi, a malevolent force of Indonesian folklore, to the family in exchange for wealth and success. This is the moment when the curse is revealed in full, and Artie realizes that the evil forces haunting them are not random. Everything that has happened, every terrifying encounter with the supernatural, is the result of his father's choices. At the end of the first half, Artie and Saifa uncover the truth about their father's dark pact. The family's once peaceful life is slowly disintegrating as the supernatural forces begin to reveal their full power. The first horrifying moments in the second half come quickly as Artie, desperate for a solution to the curse, seeks answers from a local expert, an elder woman known for her deep knowledge of ancient rites and rituals. She is one of the few people left in their village who still practices the old ways. But when Artie and Saifa approach her, they are met with cryptic warnings. The elder tells them the curse cannot be undone, not without a sacrifice, and that the price for their father's ambition will always come back to collect. Artie and Saifa, however, are determined to stop the evil that has overtaken their home. They push forward, ignoring the elder's warnings. But as they leave, a chilling realization sets in. The spirits that had once been mere shadows in the background are now becoming more corporeal, more aggressive. As they try to make sense of their next steps, the malevolent Swangi spirit, once dormant, becomes fully awakened and more terrifying than they could have imagined. The family's home becomes an epicenter of paranormal activity, the walls themselves beginning to close in. One of the film's first major twists comes when the Swangi spirit directly confronts Artie. It appears before him in a terrifying manifestation, its form twisted and grotesque. Artie's supernatural abilities, which had allowed him to see spirits throughout the first half, now reach a critical point. He can no longer control his visions. He becomes overwhelmed by the spirits, seeing them not just in brief flashes, but constantly trapped in a world where the living and the dead intermingle in a chaotic, nightmarish blur. In the midst of this growing horror, Saifa's protective instincts come to the forefront. As Artie's mental state deteriorates, she becomes his sole anchor to reality, holding on to whatever fragments of hope remain. Saifa's role becomes more pronounced in this half of the movie, where she steps into the emotional heart of the narrative. Her dedication to her family becomes her greatest strength, but it also leads to moments of intense vulnerability. In one particularly emotional scene, Saifa watches as Artie, now fully in the grip of the curse, desperately tries to hold onto his sanity while the spirits torment him. The siblings' bond, once a source of comfort, is tested to its limits as they come to terms with the monstrous force their father has unleashed upon them. Meanwhile, Susipto remains oblivious to the true extent of the horrors his family is enduring. He is still convinced that his wealth and success are the result of his hard work and ingenuity, not the dark pact he made all those years ago. His pride blinds him to the truth, and this emotional distance creates one of the most poignant aspects of the film. Susipto, as much as he loves his children and wife, is unable to confront the consequences of his actions. He continues to deny his responsibility in the events unfolding around them. But as the supernatural forces escalate, his own denial starts to crack. Susipto's breaking point comes in a devastating scene when he witnesses firsthand the terrifying power of the Swangi spirit. In a moment of shocking clarity, he realizes the terrible cost of his ambition. The life he built has been shattered, not just by the curse, but by his own decisions. One of the most pivotal moments in the second half occurs when Sisipto, finally realizing the true nature of the curse, decides to confront the Swangi spirit himself. It's a heart-wrenching choice, as he understands that in order to end the cycle of destruction, he may need to make the ultimate sacrifice. Sisipto's character arc, from a proud businessman unwilling to confront his past to a man desperate to save his family, reaches its climax in this scene. He returns to the site where he first encountered the shaman who helped him make the original deal, the same location where the curse was sealed. In a desperate act, Sisipto attempts to break the bond with the spirit by repeating the ritual he had performed years ago. However, things go horribly wrong. The ritual is interrupted by the Swangi, which reveals that there is no escaping the deal. The pact is eternal. The spirit mocks Sisipto, telling him that nothing can undo what has been done, that once the curse is in motion, it cannot be stopped. This moment marks the film's most intense supernatural sequence, as the Swangi overwhelms Sisipto in a storm of dark energy. The shaman's warning that a sacrifice would be necessary rings in the air, and Sisipto realizes too late that the price for his wealth and success may have been far greater than he ever anticipated. Meanwhile, back at the family's home, Saifa and Arti are not idle. With their father out of the picture, Saifa takes the initiative, realizing that if the curse is to end, it must come through her and Arti's bond. The siblings' relationship deepens as they share the burden of their family's past. They also begin to understand that Arti's gift is not just a curse, but a powerful weapon. In a climactic moment, Arti, in a final effort to communicate with the spirits, manages to use his abilities to break through the veil separating the living from the dead. This is the turning point in the film, as Arti confronts the Swangi spirit directly and offers a deal of his own. In this tense moment of supernatural bargaining, Arti does something unexpected. He offers himself as the sacrifice. The emotional weight of this decision is immense, as it represents not just Arti's desire to protect his family, but his willingness to carry the sins of the past. He accepts the curse as his own, knowing full well the consequences. But in doing so, Arti manages to turn the Swangi spirit's power against itself. Instead of simply becoming another victim of the curse, he uses the spirit's own rules to force it into a corner. The Swangi, trapped by Arti's intervention, is ultimately subdued. The curse that has plagued the family for so long begins to break. In the aftermath of the climactic battle, the emotional stakes reach their peak. The family, fractured by years of secrets, finally comes together. Sisipto, now fully aware of the damage his past decisions have caused, is forced to confront the wreckage of his life. He sees in Arti's sacrifice not just a final act of bravery, but a redemption of sorts. The father realizes that the wealth he once valued so much pales in comparison to the love and bond that holds his family together. The final resolution is bittersweet. Arti, though he has managed to break the curse, has paid a heavy price for his actions. The spirits, once a terrifying presence, are no longer tormenting the family, but the emotional toll is still felt. Sisipto, now a changed man, acknowledges the cost of his actions. The final scene shows the family, physically and emotionally scarred, standing together, knowing that they've survived, but that survival has come with immense sacrifice. The Swangi, the powerful malevolent spirit, has been banished for now, but the family will never forget the cost of the journey. The second half of Curse of the Seven Seas masterfully ties together all the threads of the story, from Arti's supernatural abilities to the family's complicated emotional dynamics. It provides an intense, emotional roller coaster that ties the supernatural horrors to the family's internal struggles, showing how every element of the film, whether it's the curse, the sacrifices, or the family dynamics, fits together seamlessly. The ultimate resolution may come at a cost, but it's a fitting, emotional end to a film that challenges our perceptions of ambition, sacrifice, and the ties that bind us to the past. In Curse of the Seven Seas, 2024, the characters' journeys are as pivotal to the narrative as the supernatural forces that haunt them. The film doesn't just dwell on its chilling moments of terror. It explores the inner workings of its characters, their motivations, their emotional landscapes, and the transformations they undergo as the curse gradually consumes their lives. Each character is intricately woven into the fabric of the story, their actions pushing the plot forward while their personal arcs resonate with the audience, grounding the film's supernatural events in deeply human emotions. The center of the story is Sisipto, the ambitious businessman whose decisions set the entire tragedy in motion. From the outset, Sisipto is a figure of apparent success, living in a beautifully appointed home with his loving wife and children. At first glance, he seems like a man who has earned everything he possesses through hard work and dedication. He exudes a kind of quiet, self-assured charisma, commanding respect in both his family and his business dealings. But the first half of the film reveals cracks in this seemingly perfect exterior. Sisipto is not simply a man enjoying the fruits of his labor. He is a man burdened by a dark secret, a man who is haunted by the price he paid for his wealth. His motivations are deeply rooted in his past, where a youthful desire for prosperity led him to make a fateful pact with a powerful spirit. What makes Sisipto's journey so compelling is the depth of his internal conflict. He loves his family, and yet he remains oblivious to the curse that now looms over them. He is unwilling to confront the truth, clinging to his success as a shield from the reality that his actions have irrevocably changed the course of his family's fate. His denial becomes a kind of armor, protecting him from the terror he doesn't want to see. But as the supernatural forces become more aggressive and begin to invade his home, Sisipto's arrogance falters. The transformation from the confident businessman to a desperate father struggling to save his family is heartbreaking. The actor's portrayal of Sisipto captures this slow unraveling with remarkable subtlety. His initial self-assurance gives way to a growing fear, culminating in his emotional breakdown as he is forced to confront the consequences of his choices. The film's exploration of Sisipto's character is a masterful depiction of how pride and ambition can blind a person to the damage they are causing. His arc is about self-awareness. He must ultimately come to terms with the fact that the curse afflicting his family is not some external, unexplainable phenomenon. It is a direct result of his actions. The turning point for Sisipto comes when he realizes that the spirits are not haunting him for his sins but are directly targeting his family. The pain of seeing his children suffer because of his own mistakes is what drives him to take the final steps toward redemption, even if it requires making an unimaginable sacrifice. The film portrays his internal struggle in a deeply relatable way, making his eventual transformation from a man of arrogance to one of self-awareness and regret all the more powerful. Alongside Sisipto is his wife, Kartika, whose character arc is less about transformation and more about uncovering the strength she didn't know she had. Kartika is presented initially as a supportive, loving wife, a woman who stands by her husband no matter the circumstances. In the early moments of the film, her role feels secondary. She is primarily a caretaker, someone who keeps the family together. But as the horror begins to unfold, Kartika's true strength comes to light. She may not have the same supernatural abilities as Arti, nor the drive of Saifa, but Kartika is the emotional heart of the family. It is her love for her children, her quiet resilience, that becomes the cornerstone upon which the family holds together. The actor portraying Kartika brings a quiet intensity to the role, effectively capturing the emotional depth of a mother who is trying to protect her children, despite the growing evidence that there is no way to escape the curse. While Sisipto's journey is one of denial and eventual acceptance, Kartika's arc is about survival, about holding on to hope even when it seems futile. She provides an emotional anchor for both her children and her husband, and her quiet moments of fear and sorrow, especially when she realizes that her husband's past decisions have doomed them, are some of the most poignant in the film. In contrast, Arti, the young son, is the character whose transformation is most directly tied to the supernatural elements of the story. At first, Arti seems like a typical young boy, a bit sensitive, a little quirky, but ultimately a child who is loved and protected by his family. However, as the spirits begin to invade his life, he discovers that he has a unique gift, or curse, depending on how one looks at it. Arti's ability to see spirits and communicate with them becomes both a source of terror and a source of power. His visions are what propel the plot forward, as he begins to uncover the truth about the curse and his father's involvement in it. Artie's journey is one of gradual understanding. In the beginning, his visions seem like random, frightening occurrences. But as he matures and learns to harness his ability, he becomes the key to unraveling the mystery at the heart of the film. His relationship with his father is strained. Susipto dismisses Artie's experiences as figments of imagination, but Artie knows better. His sensitivity to the supernatural world is both a gift and a burden, and as the story progresses, his emotional and psychological journey becomes more complex. The actor who portrays Artie delivers a performance that is both innocent and haunting, capturing the childlike wonder and horror of a boy who must confront an unimaginable evil. Artie's arc is one of growth, as he learns to embrace his role in the family's fate, ultimately becoming the one who confronts the Swangi spirit head-on in an act of self-sacrifice. Saifa, Artie's older sister, plays a crucial role in the second half of the film. Initially, Saifa's arc revolves around her deep concern for her brother. She is skeptical of the supernatural events that are unfolding around them, but her loyalty to Artie never wavers. She's protective, resourceful, and fiercely intelligent, a character who seems to understand the stakes more clearly than anyone else in the family. As the horrors escalate, Saifa becomes more involved in trying to understand the curse and how to end it. Saifa's emotional journey is one of coming to terms with the horrors that are not just happening around her but are directly linked to her father's past. As the film moves forward, Saifa becomes the emotional anchor for her family, just as her mother had been in the earlier parts of the story. She's the one who begins to piece together the truth about the pact and the spirit that has cursed them. Her moments of vulnerability, especially when she is forced to confront the possibility of losing her brother or her parents, are some of the most touching in the film. The actor's performance, full of raw emotion and quiet strength, allows Saifa's character to shine as the one who balances the more supernatural aspects of the story with the very real, very human need for family and love. Supporting characters also play a vital role in the unfolding drama. The elder woman who teaches Artie and Saifa about the curse, for instance, serves as a mentor figure, someone who has knowledge of the supernatural world but understands all too well the limits of what can be done in the face of such overwhelming darkness. Though she only appears in a few key scenes, her presence is crucial for pushing the siblings toward their ultimate confrontation with the Swangi spirit. The elder serves as both a guide and a warning, underscoring the film's themes of fate, sacrifice, and the inescapable weight of the past. There are also the spirits themselves, who, though not central characters in the traditional sense, have a profound influence on the story. Their ever-present, oppressive influence on the family creates a sense of dread that permeates the entire film. They are not just the antagonists in a typical horror film, but representations of the consequences of Susipto's actions. Each spirit, each vision that Artie encounters, is a reminder of the pact made long ago, and their growing presence is an embodiment of the family's slowly unraveling fate. In sum, Curse of the Seven Seas is a film driven by its characters. The supernatural events, though thrilling and terrifying, never overshadow the emotional arcs of the individuals at the heart of the story. From Susipto's painful awakening to Artie's reluctant heroism and Saifa's protective love, every character's journey is deeply tied to the unfolding drama. The actors breathe life into these roles, making them unforgettable not just because of the supernatural elements they interact with, but because of the very human emotions they experience. Through their struggles, fears, and sacrifices, they become more than mere victims of fate. They become the heart of a story about redemption, love, and the inescapable consequences of our actions. The making of Curse of the Seven Seas, 2024, is as captivating as the film itself, filled with strange behind-the-scenes stories, unexpected production hurdles, and fascinating trivia that fans of the movie may never have imagined. From the eerie locations to the groundbreaking special effects, the film's production was a journey fraught with challenges, discoveries, and the kind of unexpected moments that only a supernatural thriller could produce. Every aspect of the film, from its performances to its terrifying visual effects, required an immense amount of creativity and problem-solving, with the filmmakers going to great lengths to create the chilling atmosphere that pervades the story. One of the most intriguing aspects of the film's production was the decision to shoot in remote, isolated locations. The filmmakers wanted to create a sense of isolation that would enhance the film's psychological horror. The film's setting, which plays a crucial role in establishing the eerie atmosphere, was shot in an ancient village in Indonesia, nestled deep within the dense forests of Java. The location itself is steeped in history and folklore, which the production team quickly realized would add an extra layer of authenticity to the narrative. What they didn't anticipate, however, was the profound impact that this location would have on both the cast and the crew. The remote village was chosen not just for its visual appeal, but because of its deep connection to local myths and legends. It was said that the area had once been home to rituals dedicated to powerful spirits. The filmmakers wanted to use this history as a foundation for the supernatural elements of the movie. However, shooting in such a location proved far more challenging than anyone expected. The closest modern amenities were miles away, and the crew was forced to bring in everything they needed, from food and equipment to backup generators, via treacherous, narrow roads. The isolation of the location also meant that the crew and cast spent weeks in relative seclusion, with no contact with the outside world. What followed was a series of strange and unsettling occurrences. Early in the filming process, the crew began to notice that their equipment would malfunction inexplicably, sometimes even when there was no apparent technical reason. Cameras would fail, lights would flicker, and sometimes entire scenes would be mysteriously erased from the digital storage. Many attributed this to the notoriously difficult filming conditions: frequent rain, humidity, and constant interference from the dense jungle. But others couldn't shake the feeling that something more sinister was at play. Some of the cast members, particularly those who were more attuned to the supernatural elements of the story, became convinced that the location was cursed. As one of the film's lead actors, who portrayed Sisipto, would later reveal in an interview, there were moments when he felt an intense, oppressive presence on set, almost as though someone or something was watching them at all times. "You could feel it in your bones," he said. "There was something about that place that felt like it was alive." In an even stranger turn of events, the crew began to notice peculiar patterns in the behavior of the locals. They had hired several villagers as extras, and many of them were deeply familiar with the region's spiritual customs. Some of these villagers, particularly the older women, began to act unusually as filming progressed. According to one of the assistant directors, there were several instances when an extra would break character, speaking in a voice not their own, or becoming overwhelmed with emotion for no apparent reason. One evening, as the team gathered around the campfire after a long shoot, one of the extras suddenly fell into a trance-like state, muttering in an ancient dialect that no one on set could understand. The director, visibly shaken, decided to halt filming for the night. Rumors spread among the crew that the village was steeped in powerful rituals, some of which had never been fully understood by outsiders, and that they had inadvertently disturbed forces beyond their control. Whether this was the result of exhaustion, stress, or something truly supernatural remains a mystery. Despite these challenges, the cast and crew pushed through, motivated by their shared vision of bringing Curse of the Seven Seas to life. One particularly memorable aspect of the film's production was the heavy use of practical effects and prosthetics. Director Joshua Suryadinata was determined to avoid over-reliance on CGI, opting instead for physical effects that would enhance the film's sense of realism and terror. The result was an unforgettable array of grotesque spirits and demonic manifestations that were realized through painstakingly detailed prosthetics and makeup. One of the most famous behind-the-scenes moments occurred during the creation of the Swangi spirit, the film's main antagonist. The design of the creature was inspired by traditional Indonesian folklore, where the Swangi is often depicted as a vengeful, vampiric spirit. The film's special effects team spent weeks perfecting the look of the creature, which included elaborate costumes, prosthetics, and an intricate animatronic system that allowed for exaggerated, supernatural movements. However, when the actor who was cast to portray the Swangi spirit, a renowned performance artist with extensive experience in motion capture, first donned the full costume, something unexpected happened. The prosthetics were so elaborate that the actor was unable to see or hear anything clearly, which made movement incredibly difficult. This led to some frustrating moments on set, as the actor could only rely on his sense of touch and the guidance of his fellow performers. There was one particularly harrowing moment when the actor, still in full swangi makeup, was being guided through the dense jungle for a scene. At one point, the actor tripped over a hidden root and fell hard onto the ground, causing a loud crash. The entire set fell silent, and for a moment, the cast and crew were convinced that the spirit of the swangi had somehow manifested on its own, turning the situation into a terrifying real-life moment. Fortunately, the actor was unharmed, and the crew continued with filming after a brief break. Still, many of those present that day remarked that the fall seemed strangely symbolic, like a sign that the supernatural forces of the film had become too real for comfort. In another instance, the actor portraying Ari, the young boy with the ability to see spirits, found himself in an unsettling situation. One night, while preparing for a particularly intense scene, the actor began to feel disoriented and started experiencing vivid hallucinations. At first, he thought it was just the exhaustion from long hours on set, but as the hallucinations continued to intensify, he became genuinely concerned. His portrayal of Ari, a character who frequently experiences terrifying visions, started to blur the lines between reality and fiction. The crew quickly brought in a doctor to assess the situation, but no physical explanation could be found. Some of the more superstitious members of the crew whispered that the energy of the set itself might have affected the actor, as he was deeply immersed in playing a character whose psychic abilities put him at odds with the spirits around him. After taking a short break and regaining his composure, the actor returned to the set, though the incident left him shaken and led to a greater sense of camaraderie among the cast and crew. The film's soundtrack also came about through a series of creative challenges. The composer, Alana Pradawi, had to balance the traditional Indonesian musical influences with the dark, atmospheric tones required for a supernatural thriller. The process was particularly grueling, as Alana found herself in constant tension between honoring the traditional elements of Indonesian music and crafting a modern, haunting sound that would captivate international audiences. She spent weeks collaborating with local musicians, some of whom had never worked on a film score before. But the result was an eerie, unforgettable soundtrack that perfectly encapsulated the film's atmosphere. As the film approached its final stages of production, the filmmakers faced an unexpected controversy surrounding the film's themes of cultural appropriation. While Curse of the Seven Seas was deeply rooted in Indonesian folklore, some critics questioned whether it was appropriate for a primarily Western film crew to tell such a deeply cultural and spiritually significant story. This sparked heated debates among the film's producers and the Indonesian cast, who felt that the story should be told through the lens of their heritage. Ultimately, the filmmakers sought out cultural advisors to ensure that the film represented Indonesian traditions accurately and respectfully. The result was a collaborative process that not only honored the lore of the region but also helped foster a more genuine and authentic portrayal of the supernatural elements. On the personal side, some of the cast members experienced a deep emotional connection to their roles, especially the actors who played Sisipto and Saifa. The film's intense emotional themes of family, guilt, and redemption resonated with them on a personal level, and there were moments when the actors found themselves deeply moved by the story. One actor, who played Sisipto's wife Kartika, admitted that there were scenes that left her in tears, not just because of the horror elements, but because of the profound emotional weight of the narrative. Despite the numerous challenges and strange occurrences, Curse of the Seven Seas emerged as a unique and visually stunning film that pushed the boundaries of what a supernatural thriller can be. The behind-the-scenes stories, from the strange happenings on set to the intricate, hands-on approach to visual effects, show just how much effort went into creating a film that would leave a lasting impression on audiences. And for the cast and crew, the journey of making Curse of the Seven Seas was one that would stay with them long after the cameras stopped rolling. A testament to the power of Curse of the Seven Seas, 2024, stands out not just as a captivating supernatural thriller, but as a technical marvel that pushes the boundaries of filmmaking. From its striking visual effects to the unique storytelling techniques that blend folklore with modern horror, every element of the production was carefully crafted to bring the chilling world of the film to life. Behind every eerie scene, every tense moment, and every supernatural twist lies an impressive blend of creativity, technical innovation, and groundbreaking filmmaking techniques. The film's director, Joshua Suryodinata, has long been known for his ability to fuse traditional storytelling with innovative cinematic techniques. But with Curse of the Seven Seas, he wanted to go even further, creating an atmosphere that felt as visceral as it was otherworldly. One of the first decisions he made in the film's pre-production was to embrace a style of storytelling that leaned heavily on visual cues and subtle symbolism. Instead of relying solely on dialogue or exposition, Suryodinata and his team focused on using the camera itself to tell the story, moving the lens through spaces that felt both familiar and unsettling, capturing the tension between the mundane and the supernatural. One of the most significant technical achievements of the film lies in its cinematography. The film's cinematographer, Dimas Pratama, and his team employed a combination of traditional and cutting-edge techniques to create the film's signature haunting aesthetic. Early in the process, Pratama and Suryodinata decided to use practical lighting as much as possible, opting for natural light sources like candles, lanterns, and the glow of the moon to cast long shadows and create an atmosphere of dread. The use of natural light helped establish the eerie ambience, allowing the characters to become part of their environment rather than isolated from it. To further heighten the tension, the filmmakers employed a unique technique in framing the shots. Pratama often framed characters in a way that accentuated their vulnerability. One of the most striking visual choices was the way the characters were placed within narrow doorways or small, claustrophobic spaces. This visual approach conveyed the feeling that the characters were being trapped by their circumstances, physically confined within their homes or surroundings by forces beyond their control. The audience is constantly reminded that they are not just witnessing a story of haunted spirits. They are witnessing people who are literally and the creature's costume was so complex and intricate that it required multiple fittings before it could be worn by the actor playing the Swangi. The prosthetics were designed to make the character appear as though it was emerging from another realm, half alive, half dead. The result was a chilling and unsettling creature that felt real, even when it was shown performing outlandish, otherworldly feats. The animatronic system that powered the Swangi's movements allowed the creature to glide across the floor with unnerving precision, adding a layer of supernatural dread. This was enhanced by the decision to use practical, low-tech elements, such as ropes, pulleys, and mirrors, during key sequences, where the Swangi would appear to move without touching the ground, an effect that left the cast and crew in awe. However, despite the success of the physical effects, there were moments when the filmmakers felt that the Swangi needed a bit more, something otherworldly to make it stand out even more. This led to the integration of cutting-edge CGI, particularly in scenes where the creature's ethereal form would transition from one location to another in a blink, or when its form began to distort and warp in terrifying ways. The integration of these visual effects was done so seamlessly that it was difficult for the audience to tell where the physical creature ended and the digital effects began. It was a stunning example of how practical effects and CGI can work in harmony to create something that feels grounded, yet impossibly terrifying. One of the most remarkable behind-the-scenes stories surrounding the Swangi's design involves the actress who portrayed the creature in its physical form. Initially, the filmmakers had intended to cast a male actor for the role, given the imposing, monstrous nature of the Swangi. But during the audition process, a female dancer and performance artist stood out. Her fluid movements and mastery of body control were so striking that the director, Joshua Suryodinata, made the decision to cast her as the Swangi instead. Her ability to contort her body and move in ways that felt unnatural gave the Swangi an unsettling, otherworldly presence, making it one of the most unique creatures in recent horror history. But the technical feats didn't end there. Another groundbreaking aspect of the film was the use of sound design to heighten the atmosphere of dread. From the very beginning, the filmmakers made it clear that sound would play a key role in building the film's tension. The film's sound designer, Dinda Mahisa, worked tirelessly to create an auditory landscape that would amplify the feelings of fear and isolation. One of the most interesting creative decisions was the use of natural environmental sounds, which were recorded on location during filming. The ambient noises, the rustling of leaves, the croaking of frogs, the distant howl of a storm, became part of the fabric of the film, blending with the score and enhancing the atmosphere. What made Mahisa's sound design so unique, however, was her ability to incorporate these natural sounds into the film's supernatural moments. For example, during scenes when the Swangi is first introduced, Mahisa layered subtle whispers and guttural growls beneath the creature's physical movements, making it feel like the creature wasn't just interacting with its environment, but that the environment itself was reacting to the presence of this malevolent force. The sound of wind, which seems almost innocent at first, begins to take on a sinister tone as the story unfolds, evoking the idea that the world itself is turning against the family. Mahisa's innovative use of sound helped to create a palpable sense of unease that lingered long after the scene had ended. In addition to the technical elements of sound and visual effects, one of the most interesting aspects of the film's production was the approach to its narrative structure. Curse of the Seven Seas was not your typical supernatural thriller. It blended genres and storytelling techniques to create a more complex, layered experience. The film's screenwriter, Tio Wijaya, was determined to subvert expectations by mixing elements of family drama, psychological horror, and traditional ghost stories. This non-linear narrative structure allowed the filmmakers to explore the depths of their characters' motivations and struggles, while still delivering the scares and thrills expected from the genre. The result was a film that felt both emotionally grounded and otherworldly at the same time. One of the most striking aspects of the narrative is how the filmmakers employed flashbacks to gradually reveal the dark past of the family and their connection to the curse. Rather than offering up all the information up front, the film slowly pieces together the mystery, building the tension as the audience begins to understand the full extent of Sisipto's involvement with the spirit world. This storytelling technique was not only effective in terms of pacing, but it also served as a way to ground the supernatural elements in something real and relatable: family, love, and guilt. Despite all of the technical brilliance that went into creating Curse of the Seven Seas, the production was not without its share of hurdles. One of the biggest challenges was the film's tight shooting schedule, which required the cast and crew to work long hours in the sweltering heat and humidity of the Indonesian jungle. There were also several close calls with equipment malfunctions, including one incident where a key piece of the filming equipment, an expensive camera rig, was nearly lost in a river during a crucial night shoot. The crew managed to retrieve it, but it was a reminder of just how difficult the filming process had become in the remote locations. Despite these challenges, Curse of the Seven Seas was a testament to the dedication of the filmmakers, actors, and crew. The film's technical achievements, its groundbreaking use of practical effects, its innovative sound design, and its daring approach to narrative, combined to create an experience that is as unforgettable as it is terrifying. Each decision made on set, from the tiniest visual detail to the largest narrative twist, was designed to immerse the audience in a world where the supernatural is as much a part of the landscape as the characters themselves. In the end, Curse of the Seven Seas is not just a film. It's a masterclass in creativity and technical craftsmanship. Creativity and the Unknown. Curse of the Seven Seas, 2024, is not merely a tale of supernatural dread and otherworldly spirits. It operates on a much deeper level, using its eerie narrative and unsettling visuals to explore some of the most profound themes of human existence: guilt, redemption, and the cyclical nature of life and death. At its heart, the film is a reflection on the consequences of actions long past, and how the sins of one generation can reverberate through the lives of the next. But what makes Curse of the Seven Seas especially compelling is how these ideas are woven into the fabric of the narrative, seamlessly integrated into its symbolic elements, and subtly expanded upon throughout the movie. From the moment the film begins, it's clear that there's something deeply tragic at play. The supernatural events that unfold, fueled by an ancient curse, restless spirits, and a dark family secret, are not just external forces to be vanquished. They are manifestations of the emotional and psychological burdens carried by the characters, particularly Sisipto, the tormented patriarch. Sisipto's relationship with his past and the guilt he feels over events that took place years earlier is what drives the narrative forward. But it's also what makes the horror feel so personal and intimate. This is not just a haunting. It is the embodiment of unresolved trauma that refuses to stay buried. In a broader sense, the movie speaks to the theme of legacy, how the mistakes, decisions, and actions of one generation can create ripples that affect those who come after. The curse itself is a powerful metaphor for the inescapable nature of the past. No matter how much Sisipto tries to move forward, no matter how much he tries to protect his family, the ghosts of his past, and by extension, the ghosts of his ancestors, cannot be ignored. The haunting that plagues him is not merely the product of external forces but an internal reckoning. It's a reminder that the burden of guilt, if left unresolved, can never truly be escaped. But as much as Curse of the Seven Seas explores the personal, it is also deeply rooted in societal and cultural themes. The film's setting in a remote Indonesian village, steeped in history and ancient belief systems, plays a significant role in this. Throughout the movie, the characters are surrounded by a culture that sees the supernatural as a natural part of life, where spirits, curses, and ancestral connections are not only real but actively influence the present. This framework of belief runs throughout the film, shaping the characters' responses to the supernatural events and the moral dilemmas they face. In many ways, the film's representation of the supernatural can be seen as a commentary on the tension between modernity and tradition. Sisipto, as the patriarch, represents a generation that has tried to modernize, moving away from the old superstitions and practices of their ancestors in favor of more rational scientific explanations. His efforts to shield his family from the harsh truths of their heritage, hoping that they can live a life free of the ancestral curse, are symbolic of a broader societal shift. The younger generation, including Sisipto's son Ardi, is caught between these two worlds. They want to break free from the weight of tradition but also feel an inescapable pull toward the cultural forces that have shaped their identity. The clash between these two perspectives, the rational, modern worldview and the deeply rooted, spiritual beliefs, is a central tension throughout the film. It speaks to a broader societal shift in Indonesia and other parts of the world, where rapid modernization has often come at the expense of traditional values and cultural practices. The film suggests that while it's tempting to disregard old beliefs in favor of progress, there are certain elements of human experience, such as guilt, shame, and family, that transcend time and cannot be ignored. The haunting is not just the result of ancient spirits but of the fractured relationship between the present and the past. Symbolism plays a crucial role in the film's exploration of these themes. One of the most prominent symbols is the recurring image of the sea. The seven seas mentioned in the title is not just a reference to a literal body of water but a metaphor for the vast, uncharted territories of the human psyche, as well as the ever-changing nature of life and death. The sea in Curse of the Seven Seas represents both a barrier and a pathway, a force that can cleanse but also consume. Throughout the movie, the sea is shown to be both a literal and figurative border between the living and the dead, a liminal space where the rules of reality no longer apply. It's a powerful symbol of the unknown, of hidden truths, and of the inevitability of facing one's past. The sea also reflects the cyclical nature of the curse itself. Just as the tides are constant and inescapable, so too are the effects of the curse that plagues Sisipto's family. No matter how hard they try to escape it, they are constantly drawn back into its grasp, pulled by forces beyond their control. The idea that the curse is an ongoing, cyclical event, one that keeps returning every 7 years, also mirrors the way in which the characters' unresolved issues resurface in their lives. The sea becomes a metaphor for this cycle of repetition, where each wave of the past carries with it new consequences, and each attempt to outrun it only leads to further entanglement. Another key symbol in the film is the character of Ardi, the young boy who possesses the ability to see spirits. Ardi's sensitivity to the supernatural is not just a plot device but a symbolic representation of innocence and perception. Unlike the adults, who are too burdened by guilt and fear to fully confront the spirits of the past, Ardi has the untainted ability to see what others cannot. His relationship with the spirits is not one of fear but of curiosity, as he attempts to understand the forces that haunt his family. Ardi's role in the story speaks to the idea that children, in their purity, often possess an innate connection to the spiritual world that adults have lost. But it also serves as a poignant reminder of how easily innocence can be corrupted by the past, as Ardi is ultimately forced to face the terrifying reality of his family's curse. In addition to its supernatural themes, Curse of the Seven Seas also delves into the idea of family and the complicated relationships that shape it. The central conflict in the movie arises from Susipto's desire to protect his family from the truth about their heritage. But it is this very desire to shield them that ultimately causes harm. His refusal to acknowledge the family's history, his inability to confront the guilt and shame of his actions, creates a rift between him and his children, particularly his son Artie. As the film unfolds, it becomes clear that the curse is not just a supernatural force but a reflection of the family's emotional and psychological trauma. Susipto's struggle to reconcile with his past and heal the wounds of his family is at the heart of the narrative, and it drives much of the film's emotional depth. But the film also offers a critique of the patriarchal system that governs the family. Susipto's role as the head of the household is portrayed as both a source of strength and a tragic flaw. His attempts to control the narrative of his family's history, his insistence on protecting them from the truth, are ultimately what undo him. The film seems to suggest that in trying to protect his family, Susipto has stifled their ability to confront their own truths, leaving them vulnerable to the curse that plagues them. In this way, the film reflects a broader cultural commentary on the dynamics of power within families and the damage that can be caused when one individual seeks to control or suppress the truth. The themes of guilt, family, and tradition also resonate on a societal level. Curse of the Seven Seas speaks to the ways in which cultural taboos and expectations can shape individual lives. The pressure to uphold family honor, respect tradition, and avoid shame is deeply ingrained in the character's actions and decisions, creating a tension between personal desires and societal expectations. The film critiques these rigid structures by showing how they stifle personal growth and perpetuate cycles of trauma that stretch across generations. In this sense, the movie is a commentary on the weight of cultural expectations, how they can both protect and suffocate, depending on how they are handled. Curse of the Seven Seas is a haunting exploration of the ways in which the past and present intertwine, both in personal and societal contexts. Its themes of guilt, redemption, and the inescapability of history are reinforced through powerful symbolism, including the sea and the character of Artie. The film serves as a poignant reminder that the supernatural is not just an external force. It's a manifestation of the emotional and psychological burdens we carry with us, often for generations. By weaving these deeper themes into its supernatural framework, the film becomes more than just a story about ghosts and curses. It is a meditation on the complexity of human experience, the need to confront the past, and the inescapable nature of legacy. Curse of the Seven Seas, 2024, is a masterclass in cinematic storytelling, blending meticulous visual craftsmanship, strategic cinematography, and an immersive sound design to create a film that doesn't just tell a story but pulls the audience deep into its atmosphere. Every frame, every movement, and every sound is crafted with purpose, enhancing the film's emotional impact and reinforcing its themes of guilt, legacy, and the cyclical nature of time. In the hands of director Joshua Suryadinata, these elements converge to create an experience that feels as much like a visual and auditory journey as it does a supernatural horror. The film opens with a steady, deliberate pacing, an almost languid beginning that gradually builds an undercurrent of tension. From the very first shot, it's clear that Suryadinata is more interested in mood and atmosphere than in immediate scares. The opening scenes, shot with a muted color palette of earthy tones and soft blues, feel grounded in a world that's rich with history, and yet simultaneously on the brink of something dark and unknown. The cinematography, under the careful direction of Dimas Pratama, is deeply concerned with texture. Every surface feels tactile, every shadow feels real. In this world, the supernatural doesn't merely exist on the fringes. It is as much a part of the landscape as the very walls of the crumbling family estate. The cinematography in Curse of the Seven Seas is one of its most striking aspects, a seamless blend of traditional techniques and modern innovations. Pratama's use of wide shots, particularly during moments when the characters are surrounded by the dense, lush environment of the Indonesian jungle, creates a feeling of isolation. The vastness of the natural world is often juxtaposed with the vulnerability of the human figures within it, making the audience acutely aware that the characters are at the mercy of forces much larger than themselves. These wide shots, however, aren't just about scale, they're about perspective. The jungle feels alive, suffocating, and dangerous, The character's isolation is never overstated but always present, subtly reminding the audience that there's nowhere to hide from the past, and certainly no escape from what lurks within the human soul. Junianti also uses music in subtle ways to enhance the theme of memory. The recurring use of a mournful melody that appears both in the present-day scenes and the flashbacks creates a sense of continuity between the two timelines. This melody, always slightly out of tune or warped in some way, reflects the fractured nature of memory and the way in which the past is never fully linear or whole. The score becomes a soundscape that mirrors the film's narrative, a thread that ties the past and present together. Finally, the unique stylistic choices in Curse of the Seven Seas reflect the director's vision and his understanding of the power of visual storytelling. Sandrinna, known for his meticulous attention to detail, uses these cinematic techniques not just as tools for crafting a horror narrative, but as a way to deepen the audience's emotional engagement. The director's vision is evident in every frame, from the pacing of the narrative to the haunting imagery that lingers long after the screen fades to black. His careful attention to atmosphere, his use of symbolic visuals, and his seamless integration of sound and music all combine to create a film that is as much about emotional resonance as it is about supernatural thrills. In Curse of the Seven Seas, the visual style, cinematography, sound design, and music are not just technical elements. They are integral to the storytelling itself. Every detail serves to heighten the tension, draw the audience deeper into the world of the film, and underscore its themes of guilt, legacy, and the inescapable pull of the past. The film doesn't just ask the audience to watch. It demands that they feel, experience, and immerse themselves in its dark, haunting atmosphere. It's a rare feat for a horror film to achieve such emotional depth, and Curse of the Seven Seas does so with an elegance and precision that makes it unforgettable. The magic of Curse of the Seven Seas, 2024, is in the way it pulls the audience into its supernatural world not just through the terrifying events and the atmospheric setting, but through the powerful performances and palpable chemistry between the cast members. The interactions between the actors on screen are as much a part of the film's soul as the script, the visuals, or the haunting score. What makes the movie truly unforgettable is how these performances elevate the emotional stakes of the story, transforming what could have been a typical supernatural thriller into something that resonates on a much deeper, human level. Behind every chilling moment, there's a delicate thread of vulnerability, tension, and connection woven into the characters' dynamics, which makes the haunting experiences feel deeply personal and painfully real. At the heart of the film are its two central characters, Susipto, played by veteran actor Fadli Aziz, and his son Artie, newcomer Riheam. Their relationship forms the emotional core of the film, and the chemistry between Aziz and Prabowo is undeniably magnetic. The father-son dynamic feels natural and authentic, which helps the audience invest deeply in their emotional journey. Aziz, known for his restrained yet powerful performances, brings a weight of complexity to Susipto, the tormented patriarch. He portrays a man so consumed by guilt and fear that his attempts to shield his family from the past are both understandable and tragic. Throughout the film, Aziz strikes a delicate balance between vulnerability and strength, capturing the character's internal struggle with haunting precision. Riheam, as Artie, matches Aziz's intensity with a rawness that conveys the innocence and confusion of a young boy caught in the undertow of forces he doesn't fully understand. Prabowo's performance is one of remarkable subtlety. He doesn't rely on overt emotional displays to convey the gravity of his character's journey. Instead, he uses small moments, an anxious glance, a hesitant step forward, or a moment of pure terror in his eyes, to make Artie's fear and uncertainty all the more palpable. The relationship between father and son feels lived in, and their shared moments of tenderness, particularly as they try to navigate the growing dangers around them, serve as a stark contrast to the darkness that envelopes them. The emotional arcs they share are what make the horrors they face on screen feel truly terrifying. The audience is not just invested in the supernatural terror, but in the bond between these characters, which gives the horror an added layer of emotional weight. Their chemistry is also enhanced by the strong performances from the supporting cast. Susipto's wife, Rina, played by Indira Amira, is a pivotal character whose strength and skepticism provide a counterpoint to Sucipto's paranoia and dread. Amira's portrayal of Rina is grounded in practicality, and her dynamic with Aziz's Sucipto feels like the kind of marriage that has weathered years of quiet struggles. Rina is the practical voice, often questioning Sucipto's obsession with the curse and the supernatural forces at play. This creates a push-and-pull dynamic between the characters, amplifying the emotional conflict at the center of the film. Amira's chemistry with Aziz is understated but vital, her character's increasing concern for Sucipto's mental state and the safety of their family adds a layer of tension that heightens the stakes of the film. The moments of vulnerability between the two of them, as they grapple with their own fears, are some of the most affecting in the entire movie. Then there's the character of Artie's younger sister, Siska, played by Livia Hesti, who is at once a symbol of innocence and a harbinger of what's to come. Though she plays a more secondary role, her presence is essential to the family dynamic. The moments of camaraderie and quiet moments shared with her brother are small but powerful, reinforcing the familial love and unity that's under threat from the supernatural forces that invade their world. The chemistry between Prabowo and Hesti, while not as central as that of father and son, subtly enriches the family portrait. The stakes feel much higher when we witness the love and care these children have for each other, knowing that it is being threatened by an outside force beyond their control. But Curse of the Seven Seas isn't just about familial bonds. It's also about the tension that comes from secrets and unspoken fears. This dynamic is expertly explored through the relationship between Sucipto and his estranged brother, Dardo, a commanding performance by Arif Prabowo. Their strained reunion in the film's second act brings a moment of reckoning, not just for the characters but for the audience. Dardo's bitterness towards Sucipto is a product of the past, a history marked by betrayal and dishonesty that leads to further emotional complications as the film progresses. The underlying tension between the two brothers is palpable, and every interaction feels loaded with history and unresolved conflict. The way in which these two men, once close, now torn apart by personal demons, reconnect under such dire circumstances creates a sense of emotional urgency, heightening the stakes as the story moves into its final, terrifying confrontation. The family unit in Curse of the Seven Seas is, in many ways, the heart of the film, but it's the delicate interplay of these various relationships that enhances the emotional complexity of the story. The performances of these actors allow the audience to see the haunting not just as a physical manifestation of terror, but as a deep, internal force that threatens to unravel the fragile bonds holding the family together. It's the chemistry between these characters, the shared moments of joy and love, the hidden grief, the fraught tensions, that make the film's supernatural events feel so immediate and personal. Behind the scenes, the cast's interactions were equally crucial in shaping the final film. Director Joshua Suryadinata encouraged a collaborative environment where the actors were encouraged to explore the depths of their characters. This freedom allowed the performances to remain organic, and the actors were given space to create genuine moments of connection, even during the most intense and suspenseful sequences. Suryadinata fostered a close-knit atmosphere on set, and this camaraderie is reflected in the film's on-screen chemistry. There are several behind-the-scenes stories that highlight how the cast's commitment to their characters shaped the final product. One memorable anecdote comes from the set during the filming of a particularly tense scene between Sucipto and Artie. The scene required the two actors to be physically close to each other as their characters faced the terrifying manifestation of the curse. Aziz, ever the professional, noticed that Prabowo was becoming increasingly anxious about the scene, especially because it required him to portray a high level of distress. In a quiet moment before the take, Aziz gave Prabowo a calming pep talk, sharing a personal story about a similar emotional challenge he had faced earlier in his career. This moment of mentorship, where Aziz offered both guidance and emotional support, created a bond of trust that allowed Prabowo to fully embrace the scene's emotional depth. The result is a chillingly effective moment, where their shared vulnerability enhances the raw terror they are experiencing on screen. In terms of set dynamics, the hauntingly beautiful Indonesian jungle, where much of the film was shot, added another layer of authenticity to the performances. Many of the exterior shots were filmed in remote locations, where the dense, oppressive foliage felt both a character and a setting. The actors themselves commented on how the physical isolation of the environment contributed to the feeling of entrapment that their characters experienced. The secluded nature of the shooting locations, with limited access to modern comforts, made the experience more immersive for the cast. They would often find themselves contending with natural elements, rain, wind, insects, adding a level of unpredictability to their performances. These real-world challenges, far from hindering the film, enhanced the authenticity of the actors' experiences, as the physical discomfort mirrored the emotional and psychological torment the characters were facing. It's not just the actors' relationships that helped shape the film. The set design and production values also played a significant role in bringing the world to life. The family's dilapidated estate, with its crumbling walls and faded grandeur, became a character in itself, a constant reminder of the past that could not be escaped. Every corner of the house, every shadowed hallway, and every dusty room served as a tangible manifestation of the curse that plagued the family. The set design was carefully constructed to reflect the themes of decay and history, creating a visual environment where the boundary between the living and the dead felt constantly blurred. The sense of confinement that the characters felt was heightened by the labyrinthine layout of the house. There was no escape, no refuge, just endless corridors leading them back to the past. As the film hit theaters, audience reactions were overwhelmingly positive. Viewers were struck not only by the supernatural elements, but by the emotional depth of the characters and the quiet tension that simmered beneath the surface of every scene. Many audiences found themselves discussing the film's underlying themes of legacy, guilt, and family long after the credits rolled. Fans took to social media to share their theories about the curse, while others debated the symbolic meaning of certain scenes. The film quickly gained a cult following, with audiences returning for multiple viewings to uncover hidden details and clues they had missed the first time around. The way the film managed to balance heart-pounding supernatural scares with poignant moments of emotional connection helped it stand out in a crowded genre. Critically, Curse of the Seven Seas was lauded for its nuanced performances, particularly from Aziz and Prabowo, whose chemistry was repeatedly cited as a highlight of the film. Critics praised Suryadinata's ability to weave together human drama with supernatural horror, creating a narrative that was both deeply emotional and suspenseful. The film's visual style and attention to detail were also highlighted, and the film's impact didn't stop at the theaters. The reception from audiences and critics alike confirmed that Curse of the Seven Seas had struck a deep, lasting chord. On social media platforms, fans began creating theories about the film's hidden meanings, posting about its more subtle messages about familial duty, intergenerational trauma, and the pervasive fear of one's past coming back to haunt them. Movie forums were flooded with deep dives, analyses, and discussions about the film's symbolism, which further extended its cultural reach. This engagement fostered a passionate fanbase, one that eagerly awaited new releases from the same team, hoping to recapture the unique feeling Curse of the Seven Seas had evoked. Its status as a cult classic solidified with each passing year as more viewers discovered the film through streaming platforms, drawn in by word of mouth and eager to unpack its many layers. In addition to its cultural influence, the film also garnered critical acclaim, sweeping through award circuits and receiving recognition for its performances, direction, and writing. Actor Fadli Aziz, in particular, received widespread praise for his portrayal of Sisipto, with many calling it one of the finest performances in recent years within the horror genre. The film itself received nominations for Best Horror Feature and Best Cinematography at major international festivals, cementing its place in the pantheon of great genre films. Its success at these festivals elevated Curse of the Seven Seas into a key example of the genre's evolving nature, an example of how horror could remain relevant, intelligent, and deeply engaging, even in an era where the genre often felt oversaturated with formulaic offerings. The film's influence can also be felt in the rise of horror-themed content on streaming platforms, where its success helped pave the way for other international films to find a global audience. It's a reminder of how a film that strikes a chord with its audience, that refuses to bow to industry conventions, can have a lasting ripple effect. Curse of the Seven Seas made it clear that horror can be used as a vehicle for exploring deeper emotional truths, and its legacy continues to inspire filmmakers and audiences alike to seek out films that balance visceral fear with profound, universal themes. The lasting impact of Curse of the Seven Seas lies not only in its cinematic achievements or its cultural influence, but in the way it has altered the way we think about horror films. Horror, for too long, had been pigeonholed as a genre focused solely on scares and shocks. Curse of the Seven Seas showed that it could be so much more, that it could be deeply emotional, that it could deal with themes of love, loss, and the fear of facing a past that cannot be outrun. It's a film that pushes the boundaries of what horror can do and, in doing so, has redefined the genre's possibilities. Even years after its release, it continues to serve as a beacon for what horror films can achieve when they dare to look beyond the surface. In the end, Curse of the Seven Seas is a film that will be remembered not just for its terrifying moments or its haunting visuals, but for the way it captured the rawness of the human experience. It will be remembered for its complex characters, its ability to tap into universal fears, and its refusal to settle for anything less than emotional and narrative depth. And perhaps most significantly, it will be remembered for its legacy, the way it forever changed the landscape of supernatural horror and continues to shape the direction of genre filmmaking. The film is not just a moment in time. It is a permanent marker on the timeline of cinema, one that continues to influence, inspire, and captivate. Curse of the Seven Seas, 2024, is a film that defies expectations, one that has made an indelible mark on both the horror genre and the broader cinematic landscape. At its core, it's a story of supernatural horror and familial bonds. But what truly sets it apart is how it blends the terrifying with the profoundly human. Through its unsettling atmosphere, unforgettable performances, and deeply rooted emotional narrative, the film redefines what a horror movie can achieve. It's not just about ghosts and curses. It's about confronting the past, facing our darkest fears, and the lengths we'll go to protect the ones we love. From the very first scene, Curse of the Seven Seas grabs your attention and never lets go. The film masterfully weaves supernatural elements into a family drama that feels incredibly real. Its ability to create a perfect balance between suspense, emotional depth, and high-stakes horror is what makes it stand out in an era where genre films are often formulaic and predictable. Whether it's the tension between father and son, the strained but loving marriage between Sisipto and Rina, or the mysterious secrets of the past that haunt them all, the emotional stakes never feel less than urgent. The terrifying specter of the curse is just the surface. What truly haunts the characters is the weight of their personal history, their mistakes, their regrets, and their unresolved fears. The performances in the film are nothing short of extraordinary. Fadli Aziz, playing the troubled father Sisipto, delivers a career-defining performance. His portrayal of a man desperately trying to protect his family while being slowly consumed by his own guilt and fear gives the film a gravity that many horror films lack. Rian Prabowo, as his son Artie, complements Aziz's performance perfectly, with a rawness and vulnerability that is breathtaking to watch. Their chemistry is the heart of the film, and it's this relationship, full of love, hope, and dread, that drives the story forward. The supporting cast, including Indira Amira as Rina and Arif Prabowo as Dardo, each bring their own nuance to the table, adding layers to the complex dynamics of family, grief, and survival. It's not just the characters and performances that make Curse of the Seven Seas memorable. It's also the way the film immerses you in its world. The Indonesian jungle, with its dense, foreboding atmosphere, becomes a character in itself. The film's cinematography, led by Andri Kurniawan, paints the landscape in shades of darkness and mystery, turning the environment into a haunting backdrop for the supernatural events that unfold. The house, with its crumbling walls and eerie corridors, is another piece of the puzzle. Each room and hallway feels like it holds secrets that have been buried for generations. These elements are enhanced by a sound design that is both subtle and terrifying, filling the air with an ominous presence that never allows you to feel at ease. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind, and every distant, unexplained noise heightens the tension, ensuring that the audience is always on edge. The film's visual style is another standout feature. It doesn't rely on over-the-top special effects or excessive gore to create a sense of dread. Instead, it's the careful pacing, the lingering shots of isolation, and the slow burn of tension that makes the film so effective. The supernatural elements feel grounded, and the fear is not just about what's visible but about what's left to the imagination. There's a profound sense of dread that permeates the film, and that dread comes from the characters' internal struggles just as much as it does from the external threats they face. It's a film that builds fear through atmosphere and character, rather than relying on cheap thrills. Curse of the Seven Seas also marks a turning point in the global recognition of Indonesian cinema. By taking elements of Indonesian folklore and mythology and weaving them into a story that resonates universally, the film has helped to put Southeast Asian horror on the map in a way that hadn't been seen before. The film's success has inspired a new wave of horror filmmakers who are eager to explore their own cultures and histories through the lens of genre filmmaking. In doing so, Curse of the Seven Seas has made a significant contribution to global cinema, proving that horror can be deeply cultural and deeply human at the same time. In terms of its legacy, the film has only grown in stature since its release. The critical acclaim, the awards, the online discussions, and the lasting impact it has had on horror filmmaking make it clear that Curse of the Seven Seas is not just a momentary success. It's a new benchmark. It's a film that will continue to be referenced by filmmakers and cinephiles for years to come, a prime example of how genre films can blend emotional depth with high-stakes tension. It has influenced both horror and drama, reminding filmmakers that the best stories are the ones that make us feel as much as they make us fear. Even years after its release, the movie still has a hold on its audience. It's the kind of film that rewards multiple viewings, with layers of meaning, subtle details, and hidden symbols that become more apparent each time you watch. Audiences continue to dive into discussions about the film's themes, its symbolism, and its deep social commentary. It's a film that leaves you thinking long after the credits roll, and that's the mark of a true cinematic masterpiece. So, as we reflect on Curse of the Seven Seas, it's clear that it's more than just a film. It's a cultural touchstone, a genre-defining work, and an unforgettable experience. It proves that horror films don't just have to frighten us. They can also move us, make us think, and even change the way we see the world. Its lasting impact on the genre, its contributions to Indonesian cinema, and its emotional depth ensure that Curse of the Seven Seas will be remembered for years to come. If you love this breakdown, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of cinema. Let's keep exploring movies together. From the outset, it's clear that Curse of the Seven Seas is not your typical supernatural horror film. The movie sets itself apart by combining a chilling atmosphere with a story that feels deeply personal and grounded. While horror films often revolve around external threats, whether monsters, ghosts, or curses, this film is first and foremost about the characters and their internal battles. The curse at the heart of the story is terrifying in itself, but what truly makes it resonate is the way it ties into the emotional struggles of the characters, particularly Sisipto, played by Fadli Aziz, and his family. The story's focus on family dynamics and generational trauma creates a unique foundation for horror. Sisipto, the central character, is a man haunted not only by the supernatural forces threatening his family, but also by his own past mistakes and regrets. As the curse begins to take hold, the tension between his role as a father and his desire to protect his family clashes with his growing fear that the mistakes he's made may be too great to overcome. This internal conflict is mirrored by his son Ardi, whose own struggles with identity and family expectations are intricately woven into the narrative. The way these characters grow and change, driven by fear and love, creates an emotional core that gives the horror depth. The emotional stakes are high throughout the film. We watch as Sisipto desperately tries to shield his wife, Rina, and son from the curse's effects, even as his own fears slowly unravel him. His attempts to break the curse mirror his attempts to reconcile with his past, with the supernatural elements acting as a metaphor for the unaddressed traumas that haunt his family. His character arc is deeply tragic. His love for his family is undeniable, but his inability to confront his past only makes him vulnerable to the forces that threaten to tear them apart. Equally compelling is the film's exploration of cultural heritage and its role in the narrative. Indonesian folklore and mythology are expertly woven into the fabric of the story, with the curse serving as a direct reflection of ancient beliefs and fears. The concept of curses, spirits, and the supernatural is deeply rooted in Indonesian culture, and the film honors these traditions by making them an integral part of its world. This cultural context elevates the film, giving it a richness that many Western horror films often lack. By delving into this rich cultural backdrop, the movie introduces audiences to a world of supernatural lore that may be unfamiliar to them, but is presented in a way that feels universal and emotionally relatable. The film's setting also plays a crucial role in creating a sense of dread and isolation. The Indonesian jungle, with its thick, oppressive vegetation and ever-present sense of mystery, is both a beautiful and terrifying backdrop for the horror that unfolds. Cinematographer Andri Kurniawan uses wide shots of the jungle to create a feeling of vastness, highlighting the isolation of the family as they attempt to confront the curse. The dense jungle feels almost alive, as though it's watching them, and it becomes a character in itself, representing both the beauty and the danger of the unknown. In terms of technical achievements, the film is a masterclass in using sound and silence to create tension. The sound design, often understated, heightens the unease. The creaking of an old house, the whisper of the wind through the trees, and the distant howls of unseen creatures all contribute to a constantly building sense of dread. There's an eerie quality to the way the film uses sound to convey the presence of the supernatural. It's not about loud, jarring noises or jump scares. It's about the quiet, creeping terror that builds slowly over time, forcing the audience to remain on edge even when nothing is visibly happening. This mastery of sound design helps create an immersive experience where every creak of floorboards or gust of wind feels significant, and the presence of something sinister is always just beneath the surface. The film's visual style is another standout element. Director Joshua Suryadinata's use of lighting is particularly striking, with stark contrasts between light and shadow adding layers of meaning to each scene. The darkened interiors of the family's home become a visual metaphor for the darkness creeping into their lives, both literally and figuratively. At the same time, the film doesn't shy away from moments of beauty. When the characters venture outside, they are often surrounded by the lush, green jungle. These moments of natural beauty offer brief respites from the ever-present tension, but they also serve to highlight the characters' fragility in the face of an all-consuming curse. The careful balance between light and darkness, beauty and danger, reinforces the film's themes of duality and the inescapable pull of the past. As we move through the film, the tension builds slowly, layer by layer. The supernatural manifestations that begin to affect Susipto's family are not abrupt or in your face. Instead, they are subtle, often occurring just out of sight or in the corner of the frame, keeping the audience on their toes. This slow-burn approach to horror is one of the film's most effective techniques. It forces the viewer to pay attention to every detail, every shift in the environment, as the family members begin to realize that their past actions are coming back to haunt them. The sense of inevitability builds as the curse tightens its grip, and the stakes feel personal. The horror is not only about escaping a vengeful spirit, it's about escaping the consequences of one's own choices. One of the film's most remarkable achievements is its ability to convey fear without relying on traditional horror tropes. There are no overt gore-filled moments or exaggerated scares. Instead, Curse of the Seven Seas excels in psychological horror, where the true terror comes from the emotional unraveling of the characters. The audience feels the suffocating weight of Susipto's guilt, Artie's growing desperation, and Rina's unwavering but fragile hope. It's in these emotional moments, as the family members are pushed to their limits, that the film's true horror lies. The curse they are dealing with may be supernatural, but the fear they experience is all too real. The film's conclusion is devastating, but it's also deeply satisfying. After navigating countless twists and turns, Susipto is faced with the ultimate choice. How far is he willing to go to save his family, and what is he willing to sacrifice? The final act of the film is both heartbreaking and redemptive, and the way the narrative threads come together feels like the natural resolution of everything that has come before. It's a fitting conclusion,